Hey friends, welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast with your host, Kristen,
Nicole,
and Hannah. Come join our porch swing conversations.
filled with lots of faith, hope, and heart. Hey Postables, we are back with another episode, and today we will be recapping the first movie in the Signed, Sealed, Delivered series. And today we have a very special guest with us, Amanda, who is one of the Postables Facebook group admins and such a big part of the Postables family. And we are so happy to have her on the podcast today to recap the pilot movie with us. So Amanda, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you found SSD?
I found SSD because my aunt actually bought me a few of the DVDs and told me to watch. And at first I was like, and I wasn't really interested. And they kind of sat there for a while. And my aunt kept going, have you watched them yet? And I was like, no, not yet. I have 3 little kids. Like, I don't get tons of time to sit down. And she was like, you got to sit down and watch. So I sat down and watched for Christmas and was like, oh my gosh, I have to know how this started. And so I went all the way back to the pilot and fell absolutely in love with the series. As we're going to talk about, the pilot features a woman that has Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I had Hodgkin's lymphoma when I was 16. So for me, seeing a positive female influence on TV that was kind of going through the same thing that I had been through is unheard of. Like, Hodgkin's lymphoma is not a common cancer that you see on television, especially with a young woman. And so I felt seen. And after that, I was just completely sucked in and saw my way all the way through Higher Ground at that point. And then that was when I started catching the live movies after that.
Wow.
That's an amazing story.
Yes.
We're so glad you're part of the Postables family.
I am so happy to be part of the Postables family.
So I guess, do we want to start off by giving a little info about the movie?
Yes.
All right. Well, the first original Signed, Sealed, Delivered movie, the pilot, it originally aired or premiered on October 12th, 2013. It stars Eric Navius as Oliver O'Toole, Kristen Booth as Shane McInerney, Crystal Lowe as Rita Hayworth, and Jeff Gustafson as Norman Dorman. And a little synopsis from the Hallmark Channel website. Signed, Sealed, Delivered introduces a dedicated quartet of civil servants in the dead letter office of the U.S. Postal System, who transform themselves into an elite team of lost mail detectives. Their determination to deliver the seemingly undeliverable takes them out of the post office into an unpredictable world where letters and packages from the past save lives, solve crimes, reunite old loves, and change futures by arriving late, but always miraculously on time. The intrepid team is led by the charming and handsome, but idiosyncratic Oliver, who still considers the stamped and mailed letter to be the gold standard of communication. His hapless team of lost letter experts, free-spirited Rita, and oddly intuitive Norman, are thrown for a loop when a beautiful, no-nonsense technophile named Shane is mistakenly transferred to their inner sanctum. Shane inspires the lovable crew to step up in a risky and unorthodox way, beginning with a chance to clear the name of a wrongfully accused man and reconnect him with the love of his life. Will this dead letter make the truth come alive? All right.
Wow. That's super detailed.
It is, yeah, but I love it. It's a great synopsis for the first movie.
That is a really great one.
So Kristen and Amanda, do you want to share your first thoughts on the pilot movie?
Yeah, go ahead, Amanda.
I love the pilot movie. I think it is so beautifully done. The story is so well told, and the characters, although they have now kind of merged into they're all a little different now, right? They've all grown, and it's amazing to go back and watch the pilot after having seen the progress and remember exactly where they all started. But they all are such distinct characters that, you know, it's so cool that Martha was able to write these characters that are so crazily different from each other and different from most people that we meet in the world, right? But it works. You put them together and it's just magic, you know. The entire cast from day one just came together to create absolute magic. And the pilot, it holds up, you know. Some movies you watch later and you're like, maybe that wasn't as good as the day I watched it the first time, but doesn't matter how many times I watch the pilot, I absolutely love the pilot.
Yeah, I agree. This is a great pilot to start out a series. And like you said, like being able to go back and see the progress of all these characters. Like I even wrote down, like I was trying to be, you know, completely like unbiased in my opinion, like knowing what I already know, you know, about how the characters progress. And I wrote down like, okay, if this was my first time watching this movie, what would I think about these characters? And like for Oliver, I have like old fashioned, big vocabulary, dresses like a gentleman, loves Yoo-hoo. Shane, I have impatient but curious, willing to bend the rules, loves the internet. Rita, she's smart, she's hopeless romantic, photographic memory. Norman, smart, introverted, timid, yet funny. Norman is my favorite character, by the way. But I love this movie. It's so good.
And it's not just the core four too that were written so well. Charlie and Kelly.
And Kelly.
You know, it's like you love them, right? They're such likable characters, and she gave them such depth, even though they were only going to be there for one movie. You know, you were pulling for her to be alive at the end, and you were pulling for them to be together, and you cared, you know, and it's awesome.
I agree. I echo all of your sentiments, both of you.
Yeah.
And the pilot movie, it was of course my first. It was the first movie that I watched because,
me too.
As y'all both know, I am just recently a POstable as of February of 2021. So I binge watched, I believe, in 2 or 3 days on Hallmark movies now. Went through the whole series up to the Oscars. So.
Yeah, so good.
Do we want to start with our recap of the major plot points and storylines?
Yes, we can start at the beginning. I have under my favorite scene, first thing I have is Oliver and Shane meeting at the coffee cart.
Yes, definitely.
And we get, you know, kind of this good picture of how these two characters are, you know, Oliver being kind of confused about the coffee cart, you know, it being his first time ordering from one, and Shane's just kind of like, all right, come on, let's go. I'll just order for you. You know, it's so perfect. And then of course we get the famous theoretically line.
Yes.
Which I love.
Yeah, I have down in my notes that, of course, we both know the movie opens with Kelly, who we come to find out is the one that wrote the letter, and she's getting out of a taxi, and she told the taxi driver a story, which we don't know yet, but she's in a hurry, and she asks him to mail the letter because she's late. We don't know what she's late for, but then of course the taxi driver goes to get in the cab and he drops the letter on the ground, and then the little boy kicks the letter. Like, really? Why?
Yeah. And then you've got mom on the cell phone only half paying attention as the kid's like, can I mail this? And she's like, yeah, whatever. Shoots it out to the sky on those
and he
balloons.
proceeds to stick his bubble gum to the envelope with the balloon.
Which is so perfect for a little boy that age. Like, that's so totally, I can see that happening.
And then of course we get the coffee cart scene. And I have Oliver's, I guess, opening monologue written down, or at least part of it. Here it is. Sometimes I wonder who mailed the first letter. Who was that brave soul who put a stamp on an envelope and released it into the world, trusting a stranger to deliver it across the miles and across time? In this new world of instant replies and casual deleting, What I love about my work is I can hold a letter, a real letter, in my hand and be that stranger whose sole mission, and then it cuts off because of the guy at the coffee cart. I guess after the coffee cart scene, it cuts to another monologue from him, and he says, and there it is, a beacon of hope to those who still put their faith in the power of a piece of paper and a 46-cent stamp. And behind every letter stand thousands of dedicated heroes who still fight the good fight through rain and snow and fiscal cliffs to deliver every note, every card, every letter. And I am one of them, the few, the proud, the postal. I work for you, whoever you are, whoever you were.
That's so epic. Like he makes like the post office and postal workers just seem like awesome. Like
Yes.
I would have never thought like how interesting their jobs and their lives could be.
I always love his opening monologues. They're always
Mhm.
awesome. And of course the ending monologues too that he gives.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think it's pretty amazing though. Like you were saying, like he makes it seem so big. And that's the thing, whatever job we do should feel big, should feel important, right? And he puts
Yeah.
that emphasis on everything that they do, that it's important. Even the tiny things are important because it gets you to where you're going, or it gets the letter to where it's going. And Oliver has a really good heart for seeing the importance and grandeur in the teeny tiny and the details. And I think that's such an awesome quality to have.
Totally. Oh yeah.
I totally agree. Then it's the scene cuts to, or the next scene is, I believe, Andrea walking up to him and telling him about, needing to train this new girl from Washington. And of course, come to find out, it's Shane.
I like that he bargains with the coffee maker and the refrigerator. She's like, I'll take away the refrigerator. He's like, you'll give me back my coffee maker.
Yeah.
That's the bargaining tool that goes back and forth with his superior, not superior. He says he's above her pay grade. So I don't even know how she gets to tell him what to do.
Yeah, exactly.
I think he said, I have a pay grade higher than you can count or something.
Yeah.
That line always makes me laugh.
Oh yeah. Go Oliver.
After that, we see Oliver introduce Shane to the DLO and Rita and Norman. And this time, Oliver doesn't know her name, but then she introduces herself and he says, I can't work with someone named Shane. So I shall call you Cheryl.
I love that line. I love that. And when I first watched it, I didn't know the quote, the Shane come back Shane. I had to Google it. Yeah. And now I'm like, oh, that makes it even more funny. Like now I know the context to it,
I don't think I've ever seen that movie, but
me either.
I have, the context is hilarious.
Yeah.
I love that Norman actually uses the name Cheryl with her a few times. And she's like, no, it's Shane.
Yeah. She is not putting up with any of that.
No, not at all. As they were opening the letter, they realized something about the antique store. And, Shane goes to look it up. And Norman finds it in the phone book faster than...
She's like, wait, what? You can do this without the internet? Like, that's amazing. Yeah.
And then they get into reading the letter, and we find out that Kelly wrote the letter to someone named Charlie. She lives in Washington Park, and on the envelope, she used a 45-cent bicycle commemorative stamp, which I believe Norman said could have some sentimental value, which we don't know at this time what that sentimental value is. And he also said from reading the handwriting that she is a female in her 20s, and quoting what he said, usually confident, recently troubled, indicated by bold figures, tempered with tentative strokes, and it was a letter written in a hurry.
That's super impressive.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever find yourself like reading things now and like figuring out, like using little like postable detective skills, like,
Yeah.
this could be written by this person, this age.
I like the letter before Oliver sniffs it and is like, and ripped by K9.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that line always makes me laugh. We also find out that the letter was written and postmarked on May 22nd, but it didn't enter the system until a year later, which I think the date was June 26th. Am I right?
That sounds right. Definitely 26. That definitely sounds right. Yeah.
We come to find out that Kelly wrote in her letter that she walked away because she didn't want Charlie to watch her die, and which was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But we don't know what she's dying from, if she's going to survive.
Yeah. At that moment, your mind's kind of like, okay, what is she dying of? Like, what does she mean by that? Like, come on. We almost kind of feel like Shane. I feel like there's a lot of times in this movie where Shane almost represents the audience. Like what she says or what she thinks is almost how the audience is thinking, you know, like when she hears him, she's going to leave because she's like done. She's like, you guys are weird. Like, I'm out of here. And she hears him, you know, telling, you know, reading the letter, telling the story. And she's just like completely fascinated. And she's like, no, keep going. Like, I need to know
more. Yeah, I need to know more.
And that's kind of how we are as the audience. We're like, yeah, keep going. Why are you stopping? What's happening? Like, we got to
in the pilot, she is the outsider looking in, like the audience is. She doesn't know the procedure. She's not been there to see the magic happening. So she really is she is the audience in it because she's not part of it yet.
Yeah. It's really cool.
As the movie progresses in the next few scenes, we find out that Charlie, he had a job which he quit with Miller and Schwartz, which is mergers and acquisitions in the Colorado bank building, which is what Rita stated. Kelly didn't want to share last names or exchange emails or phone numbers, no texting or tweets either, because she just wanted to spend, you know, one day with Charlie, not worrying about, I guess, the future is what she said.
Yeah.
Well, and I think when you're going through something like that, like she was, which we didn't know what it was yet, but when you've got an illness that you think might kill you, the moment you tell somebody that you're going through it, or they find out that you are, they treat you a little differently. You know, I'm sorry. Oh, what can I do? You know, and you're no longer looked at as you. And I think for her, she really wanted to preserve that feeling that she was having with him and not have that muddied by sympathy or worry. You know, it's a huge deal.
Totally.
We see a scene with Kelly and Charlie. They rented Schwinn's bikes in Washington Park, which that was a cute scene. That was one of my favorite scenes in the movie. The little montage of them riding the bikes and taking the photos. It was really cute. And then we see Charlie. He dropped his wallet after swinging across the creek and bumping into someone. We don't know who that person is, but by the looks of it, they could be a little fishy.
Yeah. Something going on there, definitely.
We soon find out that Charlie was arrested and is in jail. What?
Yeah.
Exactly what I wrote in my notes. What? Like, it's not possible he could do this.
Right.
And his name is Charlie Riggs, which Shane looked up on her computer with her tech skills. And Charlie was accused of murdering the baker, I guess a local baker, Roger Piperson. And sorry, my mind is blank.
He was accused of murdering the baker that had won the lottery.
Yes.
And was very quickly put into jail for that because they found his wallet at the bakery where the guy had been killed.
Yeah.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah. Dun dun dun.
So I don't know. It felt really shady. Like somebody wasn't doing their job. Like how can you, a wallet there?
Yeah.
It's a bakery. How many people come in and out of there?
Right.
Tons.
Yeah.
Like it can't possibly be Charlie.
right?
Let's see, who was it that said, not our Charlie? And then Oliver says, he's not our Charlie.
Yeah. He feels like he's our Charlie. Like, I feel like I know
Was it
everything
Rita?
about
I think it was Rita that said that. That was awesome.
Oh.
We also find out that Kelly has Hodgkin's lymphoma, as we've already stated, and she participated in a 6-month clinical trial, which failed to produce positive outcomes in 100% of the patients, and no patients survived. I wrote in my notes, no, Kelly can't be gone.
Right? Yeah.
And this
I remember
was,
the first time I watched it, I was like, what? Like, no, this is Hallmark. She has to be
No.
alive. What's happening? This is crazy. Are you
that's
serious?
exactly what I felt. Yeah. This was in the scene when Shane and Oliver visit Charlie in jail, and they're trying to help him and get answers on, what really happened that day.
Yeah.
And for him, that was such a double whammy because the girl he fell in love with that day, he now thinks is dead. And then he also realizes that she was the only one who would have had those pictures
Yeah.
that could have helped make sure that his innocence was discovered.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine
Heartbreaking.
completely hopeless. He's just feeling like this is it. Like, there's no way now. There's no way.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the movie, we see that Kelly has created a website with pictures from the day that she spent with Charlie,
Thank God.
which proves his innocence.
Yes.
And she called the website Life is Short, and, had a little write-up about, I guess, their day. And, with the pictures of the pond and the bloodmobile, and
Yeah.
and we find out that Charlie was knocked down by someone who looks a lot like him right before he lost his wallet after he swung across the creek.
Yes. That's perfect timing for this bad guy, right? Like, what are the odds?
I know, right? Yeah. The man who stole Charlie's wallet and shot the baker is Eugene Mosley, the cousin and sole living relative of the deceased millionaire.
Now it's starting to all make sense.
Maybe jealousy because of all the money that his cousin had.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
I
I
think they
believe-
said the cousin was going to give the money away to
The
a
charity,
orphanage.
yeah, or orphanage. Yeah, sorry,
Mhm.
orphanage. Yes, you're right. At the end of the movie, we find out that Kelly never finished the clinical trials. She only signed up because it was free, and she went to Boston for treatment, which her parents helped her. Her parents helped her get the treatment, which was awesome. I was so
Yeah.
happy at the end of the movie when Kelly came back.
Yes. Sigh of relief.
Yes.
And I love Norman's like, is that Kelly?
Yeah.
Like,
was
I
awesome.
hope so.
Yeah, I think Norman said.
In that scene, Rita's like, let's go feed the ducks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Said,
Like,
ducks
I
carry
don't want it,
disease,
just
you
the
know.
ducks.
Oh, yeah.
I wrote that down in one of I guess my favorite funny lines from the movie when he said, ducks carry disease, you know.
Another Normanism.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Jeff always brings the comedy.
Oh, yeah.
It's awesome. One of the first things we find out is about Shane and her receiving a birthday card from her father, but we don't know why she won't open it, why she refuses to open it.
And the delivery of that is all kind of cool too, because
Yeah.
remember it had made it to the DLO and
Yeah,
gone
and
through
Rita-
Rita's hand, who happened to notice and remember the name.
Yes.
Then remember she mailed it back to the DLO.
Yeah.
Shane is like, are you serious?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, Shane, I believe
Yes.
Shane said, well, where'd you mail it? And Rita said, here, care of dead letters.
They like their protocol.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
One of the opening scenes, we find out that Rita has a photographic memory, which will come in handy over the course of the canon many
Yes.
times. And that she also likes Norman,
Mm-hmm.
which is very obvious from that one
So
line.
cute.
I believe Shane had asked if she had ever been in love, and they
Yeah.
were talking about the letter, and Rita said, I've never been in love. Well, not when the other person is in it at the same time.
And Norman's eyes just like shoot down. He's like, oh. And I love Shane's face because she's like connecting
She's
it.
looking between both of
She's
them.
like, oh, I see here. I see.
And then Norman goes on to talk about a book about, I think, chemical changes in baboons or something.
She's like, you can bring that book tomorrow. I like when Shane tells Oliver at the bar, when she's like, you do know that she's in love with him, right? And he's like, that's funny because
he's terrified of her.
Terrifies him.
Yeah.
They get it.
That was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
When the Postables are at the postal bar in between the middle and the end of the movie, when Oliver is opening up to Shane, we find out that he went on a trip to the National Postal Museum in Washington, D.C. 2 years before with his wife. And these are his words. He said, a lovely person, someone whose interest extended far beyond the written word. And they were standing in front of the Pony Express exhibit. And when he turned around, she was gone. He eventually went back to the Holiday Inn Express to wait, but she never came. He was just about to call the police when he got a message from her saying that she was tired of being married to a government official. And since she was in Washington, it was the closest she's ever been to Paris. So she was getting on a plane and moving to France.
I know. It's so heartbreaking.
Breaks my heart every time. Why in the world would a wife leave her husband? I will never understand that.
Yeah, like that. It's so awful. She
no explanation whatsoever.
No, it's just wrong. And to leave somebody there to worry like that, like it's just next level awful.
It is.
Awful.
Yeah.
And you've got to appreciate her because she got him to where he is now.
Yes.
Yeah.
But she did not have to go about it that way.
No.
Right. Yeah.
If she didn't want to be married to him, then why did she ask him to marry her? Which we come to find out in one of the later movies. She was the one that proposed to him. So if she didn't want to marry him, then why did she ask him?
I think she's just impulsive.
Totally.
As we meet her later, you know, it's obvious that she's just an impulsive person and she likes to do what feels good in the moment. And I think that that's exactly what it was. He saved her and she immediately was like, oh, my hero, and wanted to do something big, you know, and I think that's what happened. And then she got bored, you know. I don't think she was tired of being married to a government official, like, you know, like that. I think she was bored and she was just ready to move on. And instead of being a grown up and just speaking those feelings, she decided to just bolt and leave him hanging. And it's awful knowing what a gentleman he is and what a good man he is, that she chose to hurt him that way. Because as we learn over the course of the canon, she really broke him, you know, between his mother and her, a lot of damage was done. And no human should treat another human like that, regardless of what your relationship is.
Yeah.
It could have been handled in a different way, but you know, of course.
Yeah.
It had to happen the way it did.
Or he wouldn't have Shane.
Yeah.
I do think that it was a huge deal that he opened up to Shane like that. Because his character is very guarded and stays very guarded for, you know, the decade in which we've known him. And the fact that day 1, day 2, he was already feeling comfortable with her in a place where he trusted her to tell his story to her. That was a massive deal for him.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
And
as we find out, you know, in the vows we have made, it was, as Oliver said, love at first sight. So he was already starting to have feelings.
I love that he referenced that.
I did too. Yeah, I loved that.
Love that.
Yeah.
As Shane and Oliver are dancing in the postal bar, she also opens up herself to Oliver, and she tells him that her father left when she was 10, but always sent her $20 for her birthday. And then, he catches on to how she, used the word sent, not gave. Which also that story breaks my heart too.
Yeah.
How can a father just leave their child?
Yeah.
Well, in the ending of that story too, how she follows through later talking about how the reason she's a rule breaker is because she went to go see him in the hospital and they sent her away and she followed the rules. She came back the next day and he was gone and she never got that opportunity. And that's just, it's tragic. She wanted that opportunity, which, some people don't even bother to try to go down the road of redemption, but she was going to open up and do that for herself and for her dad. And the rules stole that from her. And, it really shaped who she was going forward. I think that was a massively pivotal moment for her.
Oh, yeah.
I totally agree. Yeah. That scene when they're, I guess, waiting for Charlie, that scene broke my heart too. Her, I guess, the way she expanded on the story about her father just always brings me to tears.
Yeah.
The last few things we learn about the Postables in the pilot movie, we find out that Oliver is a man of faith and he sings in the choir. And as Norman said, he's a tenor in the choir. And the DLO has been expanded to receive all misdirected letters from the Western and Mid-States regions. And
to Andrea's dismay.
Yes. It was very clear she did not want the DLO.
Oh. Andrea.
And then the last thing on my list is that Shane got her transfer to direct line operations, but she decided to stay at the DLO with Oliver, Norman, and Rita.
But I like that she left to go get coffee instead of just directly saying she was staying. And then she comes back with that coffee and says she found the 20 in her pocket. And her and Oliver have that like knowing look of, oh, you opened your card.
Yes.
You're dealing with some closure.
Yeah. Yes. Such a good moment. Nice little wrap up.
Yep. Do we want to talk about some of our favorite scenes that we haven't already mentioned?
No, like we've covered so much.
I was about to say, you covered a lot of my favorite scenes.
The golf cart scene is hilarious.
Yes.
I love them riding
I
around.
love the golf cart scene. Yeah.
What is it? Norman tells them what was the word? I wrote it down because it cracked me up about the squirrels that they shouldn't. They needed to get off the course because of ground squirrels or something.
Oh yeah. I loved that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I wrote down Norman in sunglasses is always a fun time.
I love how as they're leaving the golf course, he kind of steps back onto the back of the cart and he kind of just like taps the top of the
He was feeling real cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Charlie, we have the little cut to from Charlie pushing Kelly on the swings, and then it turns into Oliver pushing Shane.
I loved that. The way they filmed that, or I guess the way they edited it was awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of like they're setting up the parallels between the letter story and the Postable story. I really love that moment.
I loved Kelly and Charlie's meet cute in the elevator. And I guess when Charlie's boss comes in and then, he gets off the elevator a few minutes later and he's asking Charlie about bringing donuts or something. And I have it written down. Here it is. Kelly is responding to Charlie's boss, or, she kind of interrupts him and she says, actually, I like bagels, but I can buy them for myself. Right, Charlie?
Oh, yeah. Nice save there, Kelly.
That was awesome. And then, of course, the scene after that when they're sharing the bagel, that was really cute.
Yeah.
And that bagel looked really good.
Oh, I don't know. I was going to say, what do you guys prefer, bagels or donuts?
I don't eat gluten, so I can't have
no.
I like both. Both are great.
Okay.
If you take off some of the toppings that they had on the bagel, it would be good. Like I can't remember.
The capers.
The capers, yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of the name of it. Another one of my favorite scenes was Kelly and Charlie talking on the bench about, photography, and he's asking her why she likes to take photos, and I thought that was a really sweet moment.
That's sweet. I like when they're sitting and he says, I bet everybody thinks he's the luckiest guy in the world.
Yeah.
And then he says, today I think I'm the luckiest guy in the
Yeah.
world. So
I
sweet.
believe that scene also is it was another in the way they edited it, it was maybe another parallel because it cut to Shane taking a picture of Oliver standing by
Right.
the pond. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, I love the scene with Oliver going after Shane and bringing her coffee
Yes. I love that too.
before they find out that Charlie is in jail.
Yeah.
It is a testament, though, to how well he could read her, even from
Yeah.
the beginning. He could tell.
Yes.
I mean, they barely knew each other, but they
Yeah.
were so
Right, yeah.
familiar, so fast.
Yeah. He had her pinned down to the
Yeah.
minute.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love
that.
how when the lady is walking up on Charlie's porch and she's Shane's like, what are you doing? And then she runs after.
Yeah.
And then Oliver kind of asks the same question, like, where are you going? What are you doing? Why are you going after her?
Yeah.
I like that scene at the end with the bridge where Kelly comes and then you see Kelly and Charlie on the bridge talking and you see that she's sewing that button back on his jacket because Oliver had handed him the sewing kit and the button moments before and then she showed up to fix it for him.
Yes.
That was really sweet.
Yeah.
I love the scene. This was in the middle of the movie when Shane and Oliver and Rita and Norman, they're at the Postal Bar. And I believe this is before they went to see Jerry Polovich. Shane and Oliver went to see Jerry Polovich. And they're talking about, is this the right thing to do? And one of my favorite lines from that scene is when they're describing themselves. And they said, Covert Division of Postal Intelligence. And then I believe there was a few more lines after that. And then Shane says, a license to deliver.
Oh, yeah. Good moment.
Rita and Norman playing shuffleboard. And then, of course, the dance to Moon River for Shane and Oliver.
Yes.
Well, I like that Rita put herself out there and asked him to dance. And he's like, how about shuffleboard instead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little compromise.
Or how Oliver used the delaying delivery on the stakes to get the lawyer to do it.
Yes, I wrote that down. He said, have you ever seen what happens to Montana steaks when they've been rerouted for additional postage? Oh, goodness.
That's quick thinking.
Do y'all have any other funny lines that you want to share that you liked? Or
when Rita said, we're not killers.
Kidders, yeah, we're not kidders.
Yeah.
We don't kid. We're not kidders.
Not kidders.
That's about to change.
When they're in the Postal Bar, and this was after Shane takes the letter, and Oliver quoted Shakespeare, and then there's a few lines after that. I can't remember what they are, but then Norman called her Cheryl, and Shane corrected Norman again, and she's like, it's Shane, and then Oliver says, it's Shakespeare, peasants. Oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
I also love Norman's line when they're by the pond and he says, I'm a direct descendant of George Washington's accountant.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious. Just his delivery of that was perfect.
Oh, yeah. Throwing out that trivia. I also love when Rita says to Norman, she says, oh, that's so sweet. He's going after her.
I was just about to say that. Going after her. What?
Yeah. Poor Norman and his innocence.
That was so cute. I always crack up at that line, but it's really cute. Norman's line, we have a floater. I believe this is when they were first talking about the letter. They had first opened it and they found out that it hadn't entered the system in a year. And then he says, we have a floater.
When Oliver says, please don't psychoanalyze the section.
Yes. I love that line too. Yeah. Andrea's when Oliver and Shane had just left to go meet Jerry Polovich, and Andrea walks in and Norman's kind of trying to hide, and he like moves the mail bin, and Andrea says, what in the name of Paul Revere are you doing?
Can we all agree that Andrea is like the worst?
Yes, please.
Oh my gosh. She's scary.
It's
I would
very
not want her to
crazy.
be my boss.
Yeah. I love whenever she goes off about like she's wanting Oliver to be at the meeting and that whole scene, and she leaves, and
Rita
he
said,
he tells, yeah, he's like, she's saying climb every mountain for her, talent portion of
yeah,
the delivery. And Rita's like,
life
life
can
can
take
take a toll on a woman without love, Norman.
Norman. That's so true, though.
Yeah. She's a little bit bitter.
A little bit bitter, yeah.
Mm.
But I believe that role was perfectly cast. We can get into some of the lessons that we learned if y'all want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that there's a lesson to be learned in all the movies. If
Oh,
you're
yeah.
intentional, if you're intentional and you really think about it, there's always
Mhm.
something in each movie, which is so great. Like, I feel like we need that more on TV,
Yeah.
just something that kind of gets you thinking
Mhm.
about life and situations, and
Do y'all want to go first? Share some of
yeah.
yours?
Yeah, Amanda, go ahead.
Life is short, I think, is the obvious one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all had that one written down. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then, the whole conversation about knowing what it feels like to wait for someone and the damage that we can do to other people when we don't treat them kindly, the long-term damage. I think that was a big overarching
Mhm.
thing with all of them, with mainly Oliver and Shane, that we learned that, what happens one day can still affect you 20 years later. And so
Totally.
as
That's true.
humans, it's our responsibility to protect each other's hearts, because what we do to someone now could really hurt them in the long
Yeah.
run and stunt their ability to do other things,
Yeah.
That's really true. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I had the same thing about, life is short, and we often forget to kind of seize the day and make our moments
Mhm.
count. I love in the beginning of this movie when Shane mentions that she's just there temporarily, and Oliver says, how wise of you to realize such a great truth early on in life,
Yeah.
which it is true. We are only on this earth for a short amount of time. And,
Yeah.
just remembering the importance of divine intervention.
Mhm.
And we see that, with obviously all the letter stories throughout the
Mhm.
series. But just knowing that, like, God has a plan, even when the moment seems hopeless. And of course, like, if Shane hadn't been redirected to the DLO, she would have never met Oliver, her love of her life. She would have never met Rita and Norman, her best friend. Another one I have is it's important to keep your promises, no matter how small they may seem. And then, of course, like they say at the end, don't believe everything you read on the internet.
That's so true. Yeah, both of those. One of mine is the line from Charlie when he's in the elevator talking to Kelly, and he says that you learn something from everybody, even if it's not, or even if it's what not to do, which is also true.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
I believe that wraps up our recap. Do we want to get into the trivia?
Yes.
Like, thinking about the trivia I wrote down, I think we covered most of
I was about
it.
to say, yeah, one of mine we did cover.
Oh, goodness.
What did you have, Nicole? You want to give us some? I have two.
Yeah, I can go first. Let's see. My first trivia question is, where was the bus headed that we see the mother and son walk by in the opening scene?
Ooh.
A, California, B, New York, C, Florida, or D, Tennessee?
I'm going to guess California. No.
Nope.
Florida, because that's where I'm at.
Nope.
Oh,
New York.
I've never paid attention to the bus.
Me either.
On
That's
the
a good
window,
one.
kind of like at the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, nope, never paid any attention. But I'm not Oliver detail oriented.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. My next trivia question is, what floor did Kelly get on in the elevator of the Colorado Bank building? A, the 3rd floor, B, the 5th floor, C, the 7th floor, or D, the 2nd floor?
3rd.
Yep.
Which is always amazing to me how Charlie remembers that.
Yeah.
Like, it's been a year and he remembers exactly, but I guess,
Yeah.
that's his love. So
Yeah. My last question is, when talking on the phone with Oliver, what is the type of pastry Jerry Polovich mentioned he hadn't enjoyed since the death of the baker? A, strudel, B, Danish, C, a bear claw, or D, an eclair?
See?
bear
Yep.
claw.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a
I
good
haven't
one.
had a decent bear claw since. I believe it's the line.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, both of mine are Norman related. So you already said the one of who he's a direct descendant of.
I had written that one down too.
Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. Okay, where did Norman meet the president of the Yahoo company? I'm sorry, Yoo-hoo company. Was it Central Park, Disneyland, or bus trip to Mexico?
Bus trip to
Bus trip to
Mexico.
Mexico.
Yes. Good.
Classic
then-
Norman.
Yeah. Norman says that he was in jail once visiting a cousin in Arizona who was caught for doing what? Stealing gnomes, tipping cows, or impersonating Elvis.
Cow tipping.
House? Yeah.
Yeah. Ding, 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 ding. Good job, girls.
Thanks. Every time I hear that, I think of the line in To the Altar, which we'll get to later on, but about, oh, that was overturned. And then Oliver's like,
Not the cow.
Norman's like, the conviction, not the cow. Oh, goodness.
So good.
And I'm going to bow out to y'all because we pretty much covered everything that I wrote down. So
I think that's it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. And
Yeah,
meeting
thanks
us.
for coming on. We'll
thank you
have
guys
to.
for inviting me. This
Oh,
was
you're
fun.
welcome. Yeah, we'll have to have you back maybe to
I
recap
will do
another
it.
Yeah,
one.
do you have a favorite movie? Do you have a favorite one?
You know, my go-to is always Higher Ground.
Okay.
I love Higher
yeah.
Ground. Yep.
Though
Yeah.
I have now watched The Vows We've Made 5 billion times too, and I love that one. But
Yeah.
Higher Ground is always like if I'm feeling SSD and I go to grab something off my shelf, it is usually Higher Ground.
Oh, that's a good choice.
It's a great choice. Yeah, it's in my
Yeah.
top 3.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a favorite?
Oh goodness, they're all so amazing.
I know. It's so hard. I think mine's probably Impossible Dream.
That's really hard.
I know.
I always love asking this when we're having premieres and I tweet it, and then you've got everybody going,
This is so hard.
okay, what's your top 3? I'll be nice.
Okay, my top 3. Well, the the number 3 spot is like a tie between 2 different.
Okay,
I'm
this
so
might
into-
help.
I'm
Yeah.
so indecisive.
Yeah.
My number 1 favorite was Lost Without You, but that's now number 2. The Vows We've Made is number 1. And To the Altar
pick a
and
favorite.
what?
You can pick a favorite.
Yeah.
Oh, and To the Altar and Higher Ground are tied for number 3.
Wow.
Fair enough.
Probably number 4 would be Impossible Dream, and For Christmas would probably be number 5.
Yeah, I love For Christmas.
Mhm.
They're all so good. It's so
Yeah.
hard to pick. I'm
Yeah,
so
all so good.
indecisive.
And they all have their moments. Like, you know,
Yes.
you
Right.
wouldn't want to give anyone up because there's moments in each of them that you wouldn't want to live
Yeah.
with.
Yeah. Yeah.
This was a lot of fun. We'll definitely have to have you back.
Let me know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Postables, for listening. We really hope you enjoyed our recap of Signed, Sealed, Delivered, the pilot movie. We hope you have a great day or night wherever you are in the world, and we will see you next time. Bye!